This is just
Good afternoon, and welcome to Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. This is where you'll meet some of the most intelligent, creative, and resourceful people that are willing to share tips, knowledge on various topics. Today, I have with me Mr. Thomas Robert Simpson, who will talk about his 26th annual AfroSolo Festival of Black Voices, Our Stories, Our Lives in a two-program format. Before I tell you a little bit more about him, let me welcome him to the show.
thank you,
Hello and
thank you,
welcome.
thank you very, very much, and thank you for allowing me to be with you.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited for the audience to learn a little bit more about you. So let me read just a little bit of his background. Thomas is an actor, director, a producer, photographer, and writer. He is the founder and artistic director of the AfroSolo Theatre Company. Since 1994, he has concentrated on presenting Black art and culture through solo performances and the visual and literary arts. For the past 25 years, he's produced the award winning Afro Solo Arts Festival. He's also produced jazz concerts, organized community health fairs, hosted educational forums, conducted numerous workshops, and sat on funding panels for the California Arts Commission, the Center of Cultural Innovation, and Oakland's Arts Councils and San Francisco's Art Commission. You've been a busy guy.
Yes, thank you.
Busy guy. So you know what, Thomas, when I think about you, it makes me think of my dear friend Jackie Wright, because that's how I was introduced to you. So you've done a lot of work with her, and over the years I've actually seen some of your performances that you've had. So what made you start the Afro Solo Theater Company? And before we do that, let me get a little bit of your background. Where were you born and raised? Are you a native of San Francisco?
No, I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, back in '52. I came to San Francisco in '84, and I came to San Francisco to be here 1 year to decide if I was going to go to New York, Chicago, or LA. And I've been here ever since, as we say.
Ah, fell in love with it, huh?
Yes, I came one day, to visit, just to visit, because there was an airline back then, back east, and they had just started services to San Francisco. So they had what they called their 49er special. For 49 days, there were 49 seats. They cost $49 one way. So I came, and it was February, I believe, and it was kind of rainy. I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to like it, all this rain. Then after a couple of days, the sun burst open and it became San Francisco. And I thought, oh my God, I think I might like to live here at some point. And when in February, when I was thinking about moving, of course, New York was cold and Chicago was cold, and I wasn't ready for LA. So I thought, okay, I'll just go there for 1 year and get situated and settled and move on. And I'm still here.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now, what schools did you attend through while you were
Well,
did you go to school in Nashville or?
I'm from a family of 11 kids. And as we talk about my show, it's a pretty personal show about my family, one of the programs. So I went to a segregated school called Meigs High School from the first grade till the ninth grade, where it was all black teachers and everything. And then busing came along. So in 60, I believe it was 68, I was bused to a predominantly white school called Nashville East High. And I graduated from there in 1970. Then I went to a college, David Lipscomb, and my degree is in psychology. And I worked on a master's in psychology. But ever since high school, the theater bug has been like, you better do theater, you got the theater, do the theater. So I went to a teacher in '79 and said, oh, I don't know if I want to do this theater stuff, but I like to take a class. And she said, well, take a class and see what you think. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. It worked for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. So, what made you start the Afro Solo Company?
I had been in a number of productions. And when I came here, we say, all God's children work in February. You know that expression?
No.
So, okay, February is Black History Month. So a lot of schools and companies and organizations wants to have a Black History Month event. So a lot of artists get to work in February. And we've got this little thing, All God's Children work in February. I was working with some companies that had their Black History programs. And I thought, if I had written this, I don't think I would have wrote it the way they wrote it as an African American person. And I found myself in that situation a number of times where people are kind of written about us. And I thought, what would it be like if we told our own stories from our own point of view? So I began to think in terms of providing a forum or a place for Black artists to tell their individual stories from, their lived experience. And I wanted the diversity of our experience to be on stage. So generally, we would have 4 artists, and then they would tell 4 different stories, which could be a completely different story. There might be a story about a person and their Christianity. And there might be a story about living as an out gay person. And my audiences have felt really edified showing that diversity, because sometimes people think of us as Black people as monolithic.
So now with a, a magnitude, with a company of this magnitude, have you ever been acknowledged for this, for your work that you've done in our community?
I have gotten certificates. I've gotten a number of awards. So I've gotten some recognition, yes, which is always nice to get the recognition. And when I get recognition, I tend to think of it as not that, wow, you're special, you've done something.
Right.
I tend to think of it as you're on the right road. Good for you. Keep going. And
Absolutely.
use it as an acknowledgement of a little support to move forward.
Now tell me, who are some of the celebrities that have been in and out of your Afro solo theater? Who are some of the
Well,
people you've worked with?
one of the things that I wanted to focus on was people who are not celebrities in terms of providing an opportunity. But I wanted to bring the celebrities in at times because that will boost the whole thing.
Absolutely.
And I've been very, very fortunate to have a few really nice celebrities to participate. One of the first ones was Miss Ruby Dee. She came in '95 and was just fabulous. And of course, I was all like nervous. What am I supposed to call you? Are you supposed to? I'm supposed to call you Miss? She said, "Honey, just call me Ruby."
Nice, very nice. Nice.
And she came. She had done an event, a film in Vancouver. She flew here, went to hotel to rest, came in and did a 90-minute performance piece where she was working on a solo piece that she read. And if you hear her voice, I mean, you could just listen to her read a telephone directory and fall in love. But then she answered questions for about an hour. And then she signed autographs for about an hour. I was tired. And I said, Ruby, you're a celebrity. You don't have to do this. And she said, Thomas, if we want people to support us, we've got to be accessible. And this is all a part of being accessible. Old school, just really like, wow. So she was one. And we also had Dick Gregory come and perform, which was pretty phenomenal also. We had James Brown, not James Brown, Charles Brown. Merry Christmas, baby. You sure? And he was just phenomenal. And he was celebrating his 75th birthday at the time. And he's a wonderful talker. He has these big hands. And the thing that I was just remember about him and his personality is he would shake your hand, and then he would talk, and you like try to take it away, and he'd pull you back and talk some more. You're like, yes, sir, I know you get to do some stuff, and he'd pull you back. So just phenomenal. And of course, we had Mavis Staples do a piece on the music of Mahalia Jackson, which was, really, really nice. We had, I don't know if you know Emmett Powell and the Gospel Elites. He
Oh,
performed for us and was really, really wonderful. We had Gwen, oh my God, I'm having a senior moment. So maybe it'll come back to me. But we've had some wonderful people. But for the most part, we've had people who were mid-range, emerging, or in that arena to provide them a spark to their next step.
that is so beautiful. Now, when you at your theater company, you work with young people as well. Do you have like a program or classes that they take? How does that work?
We have done things with young people, but most of my work has been with adults. In terms of the artistry. We, as I said, we have had young events, but most have been 18 or over. And like you said, we've done music. I don't know if you know local artists like Paula West, um, uh, Idris Ackamore, Denise Perrier, just the list can go on and on and on. And one thing that we were able to do that I thought was very, very special, this happened, I want to say, my God, it's probably been close to 10 years ago. Time flies. But there was an opera singer who was going to perform in an opera. The opera made a decision right at night before opening night to not have her perform. And and it was an African American woman. So I felt really uh, upset about that. So I said, how would you feel about becoming and singing for us? So we hired her, and she did a, uh, uh, a performance for AfroSolo that turned out to be really, really nice.
Oh, that was
So
really
we,
good.
being really small and nimble, we can do things like that.
But you know what? That was nice that you were compelled to
Yes.
to do something for her like that.
Yes. And I was talking to one of my friends, and I was telling her the story. And as it so happened, she said, "Oh, she's my best friend."
What is that? 6 degrees of separation? Isn't this small
Yes.
world? Yes. Oh wow, that is
So she did
beautiful.
a concert for us.
Wow. Okay, so now let's talk about your 26th annual arts festival taking place on June 9th through the 20th. What can we expect? Tell us about that.
Well, what you can expect, and I'll talk a little bit about how it came about, and that is I like to use Afro Solo as a means of dealing with issues that are important to the African American community. And one of the issues that's important to us is the justice system. And we find that a number of African Americans have spent time in jail or prisons. So what happens to them in the situation? So what I wanted to do was get some men who have had that experience to talk about their lives. So this program, I have 4 men who have spent one day up to 20 years or more in prison to talk about their experience. And it's amazing. It's very personal, and it's very informative. And I find it as a way of it being redemptive. It's a way of giving back. It's a way of showcasing courage. It's also a way of, in some ways, giving impetus for you don't have to follow my footsteps. You may not have
Absolutely.
to do this. You may not have to do this. Um, but that's the program that will be opening this week for 4 days, the 9th to the 13th. Um, and the
What's
four
it called?
guys,
Does it have a name? Does it have a title?
yes, the title of this one is Black Men Embracing Our Light. And the idea is that sometimes we do things that we don't want in the light. But this is the idea that this is all a part of us. This is who we are. This is what we've done. And we want to embrace it and move forward as opposed to ignoring or hiding or, that type of thing.
Sweeping it under the rug. This is why you're bringing it out. And then I guess once you face it, then you can move on.
It's much easier. And whether you've spent time in jail or prison, we all have these areas of our lives. And in some ways, we can relate to it.
And especially with way a lot of the arrests that are happening with Black men are unjust to begin with,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
And so now, and then part two of the program features the Afro Solo founder,
Yes.
where you're going to talk about how your father overcame struggles as a Black man raising family in the Jim Crow South. So talk about that a little bit, if you
Yes.
will.
This is a very special piece for me, of course, because it's about my family, featuring my father and four generations of my family. And the story came about, and I'm from Nashville, as we said. I went home in 2013 for our family reunion. And I went to a barber that I hadn't gone to in 30 years. And it was almost like we just kind of caught up. He'd been in for a while. But as we're talking about who passed and who lived and who did this and who this and where these people are, about halfway through, he kind of leaned into me and told me that he was very upset with my father. And I'm like, "You upset with my father?" To myself. My
Right.
father had been dead for about 25 years. And the story that he told me fascinated me about why he was upset with my father. And it made me feel proud of my father. And in some ways, what my father did was revolutionary for him. It was liberating for him. So I felt a little concerned that what my father did was not to his liking, but to my liking and to my father's history, it was phenomenal. And I figured to understand why my father did what he did, which I didn't know it, of course, I go back and I trace his history, my family's history. So he's growing up in the Jim Crow South, um, having 11 kids. And I found a picture of uh, my siblings that looked like, a photo you never want anybody to see because it was pretty poor and it was showed, struggle. But then I show what some of those kids did, whether it was in civil rights, whether it was in the protest arena, whether it was in education, whether it was in professional football, whether it's going to West Point, and you may be in college. So talk about, and the idea is you see this picture, and the thing is, oh my God, we don't want anybody to ever look at that picture. What good could come out of something like that? But a lot of good came out of it. And I think, sir, what's the word? Serendipitously, my father was getting some things out of it too. And what he did, I think, was a result of a lot of things that he got out of the kids, the movement, and him growing as a Black man. One of the stories I tell is stories like Roots. When Roots came on,
Right. Right.
he wouldn't look at it. And we'd say, "Why don't you look at this? This is great. This is great." And he would say, "Why does I want to look at that when I done lived it?" So, and you think from that perspective, it's like, wow. And one of the thoughts I have in the show is like, I wish I had asked him what he meant by that. Some of the specifics. And I'm sure he could have given me some, or he may or may not have. Some of them I may know, but uh, just relating his life to where we are and bringing them together. And at this one point, he does something that synthesizes all those things in my mind.
And so this is a one man act that you're doing,
A
or
one-man solo piece where I play several different roles, but my main role is as the storyteller.
okay, okay, wow. And I'm sure it must be a little bit emotional at times,
Oh,
right?
it's very emotional. It's very emotional. And one emotional point is one of my sisters was one of the Freedom Riders. And my parents did not want her to participate. They didn't want her to participate first because they were scared, because that was a scary time. Buses being bombed. And the other was my father had a good job for an uneducated man. And if the people where he worked found out that his daughter was one of those troublemakers, that he may have gotten fired and what was going to happen to him. So it was a very tense time. Um, so, as I get into what some different people in the family did,
That
and I
is
think
really
my father
exciting.
got some things out of that as he grew up. We are working in a different way in the sense that this is going to be on Zoom, and we've never worked on Zoom before. So I'm just hoping that it comes off okay. I'm not a singer, but I try to sing a song and it's horrible, but I hope people know that I'm not trying to be a singer.
Maybe you should maybe before you come out, you say that. Yeah, okay, guys, a disclaimer here. I'm
I
not a
probably,
singer.
I probably should have, but I didn't. And it's already on video.
So it's live online or is it
It's
recorded?
it's recorded. I did videotape it live, but it would be a recording when you watch it on our YouTube channel.
On YouTube, it'll be fine.
Yes,
It'll be
yes,
fine. I think it'll be fine. And so it's because it's on YouTube, you'll have a wider audience that it's open to.
that's the goal.
And so it's you don't have to RSVP, right?
Correct. You can
And
just
then and it's free of charge too, right?
correct. I want to make it
'Cause-
accessible, free of charge.
Okay, okay. Wow. And so what kind of outcome are you what would be a great outcome for you after this play is shown and everything is done?
There are several outcomes would be edifying for me. Number one is to get somebody to watch it. Yeah.
Just one of y'all, please.
Please, somebody,
Okay.
one of God's children, somebody, somewhere, come watch this. The other would be if someone were to watch it and to say, "Oh, I've got a story. I'd like to tell my story," or "Oh, I've spent some time in jail." And my story is a little different from those stories. Because in telling up the stories, it's also what's that term when you get stuff out? Um, Now that I'm 100 years old, words don't come to me like they used to.
Well, you know what? And I'm right behind you actually, so I feel you on that. It'll come to us. So
It'll
as
come
soon
to
as
me.
you said that, it's in my head, and
Yes, 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 yes.
as
Uh,
soon as we're not thinking about it, it
uh,
will come.
so
But
if I could get people to, if I get a sense of people that want to find out a little bit about their history, that would be great. If there are people who have spent time in jail or prison and felt like they had nothing to say, for these people to model, yes, you do have something to say.
cathartic.
Cathartic, yes, 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 yes. That's it.
It was in my head. I could see it, but it just wouldn't come out of my mouth. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
And the other thing is you might think all this is going to be kind of boring and not humorous and just real sad. That's not the case. There is something that's kind of there are things that are difficult, but there's a lot of humor and joy and freedom in the stories also that's really important to me.
That is so awesome. Well, listening audience, tell them when they should tune in, what time.
Well, it's going the first one opens up this on the 9th through the 13th. You can go to the AfroSolo Theatre YouTube. It's 24/7. You can just watch it anytime you like.
Okay, that'll be awesome. I'm definitely going to make sure that I watch it. So now I
I'm
actually
gonna watch
want,
it too.
I'm definitely going to watch it. Oh, I'm watching it. I'm there. Now, I would actually kind of like to segue. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say that like there are two programs. There's one program this week and there's one program next week. And the program next week is my story. Just want to be sure they know there are two different programs, two different weekends.
Okay. And so, it's ongoing. So after the 20th, what happens? How does it just stops?
At this point, it stops. If we get a rush of people who would like to see it, and we need to continue it, we could continue it on if we needed to for a little bit longer.
That's nice to know. Okay, I'm glad we said that. So now, name three people that have inspired you over the years.
Of course, my father is one. His name is Elroy Simpson. He's my father. One of the things that I talk about in the show is watching shows like Leave It to Beaver and My Three Sons, and how they would get up, father would get up and go to work with his attaché case and come in and have dinner ready. The wife is there and they have to eat and talk about I love you this and I love you that. In our household, my father was up and out gone before we got left for school. And then he sometimes with our kids, he had to work a little second job. And I talk about never hearing my father say that he loved me as a kid. So one day I went and asked him after watching one of those shows, "Do you love me?" And he's like, "Boy, what kind of fool question is that? You got a place to stay, ain't you?" You got food back there to eat, ain't you? I sent you to
Uh-huh.
school, don't I? Well, don't you ever ask me no fool question like that again, boy. So, these lessons learned and different ways that people go about sharing and showing love. And I've kind of found out that a lot of Black men have had that experience and ask their fathers that, and sometimes get that similar kind of answer.
It's not just black men, black women too. Old school, that was their way of showing love. Like if you got food on the table, you got a roof over your house and clothes on your back, you're
Yeah.
loved, okay? Any problems with that, then I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, so what it wasn't just with black men, black women, and I think we started saying that I love you with the Oprah generation,
Okay.
and the self-help generation when we had access to learning a little bit more and
Hmm.
taking care of our emotional needs.
Hmm.
So, it was just the times were different.
And I just find that interesting going back to that time and bring it up. As we say, I mean, I said that, and I wasn't thinking that that was a Black woman's lived experience because I didn't know what Black women said to the kids, when they were growing up. But that, as I said, that it's relatable. We're in this. What I say is that we are connected in terms of humanity, and
Absolutely.
our stories are human stories.
And then again, all black mothers and all black fathers did not do that. Some of them did say I love you. I think it just
Yes.
depends. So I don't want to make people think that none of our parents
Yeah.
ever said it
Right.
because
Right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
it was said.
Not
Um,
monolithic. Yes.
exactly, exactly. But for the most part, we can relate when we hear somebody say what you said. There's going
Hmm.
to be somebody out there to say, that's my family. And even
Hmm.
to this day, there are families that are experiencing that still.
Right. Right.
So, it's definitely something. The more we talk about things and hear other people talk about it, then we know we're not alone. So
Right.
what you're doing is wonderful. I think it's phenomenal. So what's next for Afro Solo after Juneteenth?
This
Oh,
will
wait a
be
minute. We didn't even finish doing your three people. You just got to your daddy. See, I'm ready to
was
move
my
on.
mother's very important. I had a mentor named Al McCartney, who, when I was a teenager, he ran like a Salvation Army um, recreational center. He was very important to me. I had some teachers, co-workers. I've had a number of people who've been very, very important to me and had a big influence on me. So you said three. I mean, you don't get into church, the church mamas and daddies, who were very important also. So I, uh, one thing a guy told me when I started Afro Solo, he said, Thomas, there's no such thing as solo. One person doing something. And what he meant was, you may see one person on stage, but there's the director, the lighter, the tech people, the people who have to raise money, the dresser. So a lot of people went into influencing me, and hopefully for the most part for the good. I've had some of the other also.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So what's next for Afro Solo?
Next year we go into our 27th season. We will kick it off on the first Saturday in August. This will be our first live event that would be in Yerba Buena Gardens. And we haven't really announced, the who and what, but it's going to be quite nice. We will also be having some workshops, working with people on learning to tell their stories, so that in the spring we will perform the stories.
Oh, beautiful.
Um, and what I'm hoping to do is solidify more of the structure of Afro Solo and bring on, kind of associates, because I do most of it myself because of the funding situations, just to make it happen. So I'm hoping to get some funding that we can begin to work towards who's going to take my place, now that I'm 100. It'd be nice if it were to carry on beyond me, if that's possible.
The legacy thing is so important in being able to pass it down. I'm sure you knew Ave Montague, who started
Oh yes, she's a friend of mine.
the
She's a
Black Business
friend. Yes,
wonderful lady.
actually, she. she came to one of our workshops before she started it on how to start a nonprofit and some marketing kinds of things. So we were able to really work together and collaborate, and miss her and her son.
Absolutely. Yes. Ave was one of my volunteers when I was at the American Heart Association. I ran their program, Heart in the Black Community. And I remember reaching out to her first to be my, chair. And she was like, she never returned my phone call. So I called Carol Tatum, and Carol was like, and I said, Carol, you know Ave? And she goes, yeah. I said, well, I've been trying to get her to be, my chairperson for the Heart Association. So she said, girl, let me call her. She calls her, and Ave calls me right back. And I'm thinking, really?
Oh,
And after that, she raised so much money. She did so much for the Heart Association's program, Heart in the Black Community. And at her memorial
wow.
service, I was able to acknowledge her for all the stuff that she did. Wonderful woman. So, with the reason why I brought that up is because the legacy that she left behind and how her son did take over, and I think now the wife and their children are continuing it. And the simple fact that you want to do that.
Yes.
And what breaks my heart is that I watch the city dole out money to organizations left and right. And it's whenever it comes to people of color, we always get the leftovers or the little bit. It's never enough to really elevate us to that next level. I don't understand that. I really don't understand it, and it
That's
needs to stop.
what's happened with Mayor and our who's African American, London Mayor London Breed, and the chair of the board of supervisors, is they've sort of taken money, they've reassigned some money from the police department and the sheriff department to the tune of $60 million for
Wow.
2 years.
See,
Now that's not a whole lot of money, but it is a whole lot of money because it's never happened before. So we're working on now trying to distribute that money to work within the Black community. So some things I'm optimistic will be helpful, but we can't just have it 1 year, 2 years, then they go away and really expect much change. So some things are happening in that arena in San Francisco right now.
oh, that's beautiful. That's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. And then the other thing I also believe is, because I created the program, Primed and Prep, the Hospitality Culinary Arts program at the Bayview YMCA. And one of my biggest things creating that program was to find a way to make it where it could be sustainable.
Yes.
So we created the catering department, and I even got like a catering truck donated so they could continue with that. And so with your theater, just keep finding ways, outside of depending on funding from other folks, how can we make it sustainable?
Yes.
So
That's a work in progress.
yeah, so that's key. So as you are passing the baton to that next leader that's you're grooming for your spot, make sure they have that entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes.
That's what I would look for.
Yes.
Someone with an entrepreneurial mindset. So, looking back over your life, tell me, what would the 9-year-old Thomas say to the grown man Thomas today?
What I would think the 9-year-old would say is, you don't have to be afraid, in the sense, um, as I said, growing up with my father, who went through all the Jim Crow and all of the seat and me too. I'm the last generation, probably you. I'm not sure where you're from, that went through legal segregation. I grew up with the colored water, and I grew up going on the back of the bus, and some other things. I think I would tell myself that step out there a little bit sooner and a little bit more confidently. So I'm still working on those elements of myself, and not wait till you're 30 or 40 years old.
Okay. But you know what? Even if you got to wait,
Yeah,
better late than never. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yes,
So
yes,
it's
yes,
better
yes.
late than never.
But
And
if
I'm
not, I would have told. That's what I would have told the 9-year-old. Yeah.
that's
But go
beautiful.
ahead. You're going to say for yourself?
So basically, let's go back to your 9-year-old. So feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
Yes. Yes. There's a book. I don't know if you know that book. Have you read that book?
No.
There's a book, Feel the Fear, Then Do It Anyway. So if you get a chance to look that
Who's
up,
the author? Do you know the author?
I don't know her name, but if you just Google it, Feel the Fear, Then Do It Anyway, you will get it. And that was a very important book for me when I was beginning this process and working through some things.
Well, I've actually taught self-esteem in the Bayview community for over 25 years with young girls and young boys.
Great.
Yeah, because I know that that's one of our barriers where we do lack that confidence and stuff, and being able to help people work through that is one of my strong suits. Now, the other thing I was going to say to you, I am from St. Louis,
Okay.
Missouri. So
Okay.
I got to see that sign stuff. So when I came out to California, I was like, oh, these people didn't experience what I did, you
Right.
know. And my daughter went to Fisk University in
Oh,
Nashville.
wow. Yes.
Yes. So going down there, I love Nashville. It's slow. It's slower pace than here.
It's changing now, but it is, I think, slow. It's becoming more like a big city, but it's
Is
not
it?
there yet.
Okay. Okay.
If
Yeah,
you
it
went
was
right now,
really.
you may not recognize it if you hadn't been there in a while.
No, I haven't. So yeah, it'll be interesting to go back. Well, Thomas, before we end, is there anything you would like to say to our listening audience?
I would say keep listening to Kelly,
Thank you.
being informed. I would say I would invite you to view the Afro Solo performances that are coming up. I would like to invite you, if you have an inkling that this is something that you might want to do, to get in touch with us. And we've just come through a very, very tough period in terms of this COVID. And I'm hoping that most of your listeners made it through okay, um, and are beginning to do okay. I did lose a couple of people in my family, to COVID-19, but I'm hoping that we can all begin to move forward productively, happily. How do you say that word? Happily? I'm not sure that's a word.
Happily ever after.
Happily ever
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, I would like to thank you, Thomas, for participating in Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. And I definitely want to have you back. So when you're working on your stuff in August, keep me abreast. And then when it's all done, we'll have you back.
Thank you very, very much. As part of what we do in terms of I see the art, is we just kind of open a window as to who we are to let people in. And in opening that window, I believe that we see that, oh, we're not that different. And that empathy and understanding can be a result. So I would love to come back. Thank you very, very much. And this has been a real treat.
Thank you so much. And to my listening audience, let me know if you have any questions on how I can help you building your self esteem or self confidence to get out there in the world. You can reach me at imagemaker86@hotmail.com, and we can talk about this later. All
Can I
right,
give
listen.
our website? Can I give our website?
Oh, please do.
AfroSoloSF.org. It was AfroSolo. That one is not working right now. It's AfroSoloSF.org.
SF like in San Francisco.
Yes, yes. AfroSolo San Francisco SF.org.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again.
They can contact me, Thomas at AfroSolo.org, if they like.
Did you guys get that? All righty. Thank you very much.